Welcome back to Fun Ahead TV. Guess what we're doing today? We're working on Porsches. How can you tell? It's this teeny tiny little itty bitty sport cup. So, with that, stay tuned. Well, goofiest intros of all time aside, let's get cracking. This is honestly a very exciting episode because it is the very first episode that we are going to begin putting the 911 back together. It is the first part of us making this the most beefy 996 911 ever made on the planet ever. We're going to be installing the center radiator. Now I realize that's not something that, is new or different or ridiculous. A lot of 996 911s had a center radiator. And it's not like the center radiator makes it super beefy necessarily, but it makes it super track-worthy. Now, super track-worthy, you say? How on God's gorgeous green acres would a center radiator make it super track-worthy? Well, the unfortunate thing about the 996.1, which this car is that, well, it was Porsche's first crack at making a water-cooled 911. Of course, they had water-cooled cars prior to this, but it was the first water-cooled 911. And so the 996.1 was kind of plagued with somewhat of an overheating issue on track. If you look at the comparison between the 996.1 front fascia and the 996.2 front fascia, you can clearly see that there's quite a big difference in the amount of open area for the air to flow into the radiators on either side. That plus the fact that the 996.2 actually had vents in the wheel wells to be able to allow more air to escape out of them. Obviously, Porsche was chasing some overheating issues after the first few model years. So all of that being said, when we think back to the table that I showed in one of the first episodes of this series talking about all the things we're going to be doing to make this thing the most beefy 911 of all time, one of those is applying a center radiator to make this a very track-worthy car. Anyway, with all that context out of the way, let's go ahead and get that beautiful steed into the lift, and then we can do some unboxing of that sweet, sweet center radiator kit. Alrighty, well, now that we've got this puppy racked, let's go ahead and zip zap the front bumper off so that we can size stuff up right away once we do the unboxing. Well, we have the bumper off, as you can see, so that we can have access to the whole front end of the car. I also took the fender wells out so that we can, again, have access to all that because we will need it very soon, given that we need access to all of the hoses going to the two existing radiators. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. What you can see, of course, is I forgot just how freaking beautiful these are, at least what you can see of them. The CSF radiators that I installed as part of the spring project series on this car last year. Look how freaking beefy these things are. In addition to that, because I love CSF as a company, I think they make fantastic products, I went ahead and bought the CSF center radiator, and with that, let's go ahead and do the unboxing. I am psyched to see this thing. Now this is the kit, obviously, from Pelican Parts. It does come with everything that you need in order to do this job. Right off the bat, here's the air duct that is going to need to go straight in the middle of the bumper, and it touches off to the bumper to help guide air into that radiator. That is a beautiful thing. Cool. This is the OEM part, by the way. Yep, the actual Porsche part, as you can see. Here's that beautiful center radiator. I'm going to set this aside for now. We will unbox this last. In addition, we've got the bespoke hoses. Obviously, these are Porsche specific parts as well. These are for connecting the existing radiators to this center radiator to allow coolant flow between them. There's another one right here. In addition, there's going to be like a lot of little piece parts here. So here's some grommets for the mounts, hardware, hose clamps, more hose clamps, the actual mounts themselves. There are brackets on the car that are already in place just from the factory, but they don't have any any way to screw into them. So that's what these brackets are for. Pelican Parts sticker, sweet, and a wine voucher. Hey. All right, here are the actual mounting brackets for the radiator. Also, actual Porsche parts. All of the Tiptronic automatic transmission cars did come with the center radiator installed, which is why all of these parts are Porsche specific parts. They already exist. It's not like an aftermarket company had to come along and make them. I'm so excited to open this up. Like I said, I love CSF radiators. I considered buying a cheaper kit, and in my mind, I think it is worth every penny to just go ahead and buy the kit that includes the CSF radiator, because, I mean, there's just no better radiator, especially when it comes to durability, and given that all of these have the aluminum in tanks as opposed to plastic, I mean, just durability is there, additional cooling capacity is there. You can't go wrong. And I am 0% sponsored by CSF. All right, boys and girls, look at this. What a thing of beauty. This is trackworthiness right here. Cool. Well, we've got all the parts. We've got the car sitting right over there. Let's go ahead and start, piecing this stuff together. Alrighty, now first things first, the name of the game here is going to be access. So as you can see, these ducts for either side of the stock radiators are quite large. The center radiator does need to fit right in between them. So we're gonna take these off first. Now once we do that, we will actually need to have access to the back side of the radiators, because we need access to both of these hoses here on the upper and lower sides of each radiator. Now obviously we'll talk about that more once we get to it, but for now I just need to start taking a few things off and apart so that we can actually begin sizing this whole situation up. Alrighty, now let's take a quick look at these here brackets. You can see, obviously, this is made to be. This just has these little hangers, and it just sets up there like it was meant to go there, because it was. This bottom one here just mounts up like that. But unfortunately, it seems that the horn needs to move by about 3 or 4 millimeters. So right off the bat, we ran into our very first interference, and we have not put anything in place yet. I'm going to attempt to kind of turn this horn and then see how much clearance that gives us. There, it turned slightly. And I'm then going to check it with the air duct to make sure that it's not interfering with the duct at all, whether it's this plug or the horn itself. Put this back up for size. Cool. Well, fitment problem number 1 already solved. Look at us, you guys. Look at us. Are we solving issues left and right? Yes. I'm going to take this out, put this wire on this side of it. All right, there. I like that a lot. I like it a lot. Now let's just double check with that air duct really quick. Okay. Survey says, oh yeah, we got plenty of room. As you can see there, we've got a good 1.5 inches of clearance. Fitment problem number 1 definitely solved. Alrighty, well, I could be wrong because your boy's been wrong a time or two, but I'm gonna go ahead and put this bottom bracket on first. Wait a minute, what do we have here? But like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and put the bottom bracket on first because I just feel like it'll be easier to set the radiator in place. I think I might leave this a little bit loose, in fact. All right, everyone, here is the big moment. Putting this radiator in for the very first time. Done. It's done. I don't see anything else we would really even need to do. All right, I'm just gonna hang this bad boy up here. So yeah, so far, so good, as you can see. I just realized I made a mistake. Look, it's gone. Let me show you what's up. I didn't put the duct in place. And the way you put the duct in place is, I believe you do it off the car. And these little tabs on the duct go into these little holes on the bracket. So you got to put the radiator bracket tree together and then hold them together from either side, clamp it together so that the duct doesn't go anywhere. And then I think you just put it all up in one piece together. Alrighty, well, as you can see, we've got her all back installed. It was definitely way easier to do this off the car. It is in there tight. There's no way that thing's coming out. And then obviously, once we put the bumper on, the bumper will spread this and it will kind of lock in to some slots on the inner side of the bumper. You like Krabby Patties, don't you, Squidward? Okay, so now that that is in place and all tightened down, let's shift our attention now on the primary radiators and talk about what we need to do in order to loop the center radiator into the loop. All right, so this is the driver's side, well, the left side of the car's radiator, if you're in America. We need to feed the center radiator from the same supply line that would feed one of these radiators. And what I mean by that is the hot coolant comes in from the upper tube here, goes through the radiator, gets cooled, and returns through the lower. Per Porsche's schematic, we need to tap into the supply line of the left side radiator. So the hose that we're going to remove is this one right here, and we have a special hose sitting right over there, which we will talk about more in a bit, that has kind of a T-joint that comes off and goes to the center radiator joint right here. Then coolant goes through, good, and then we tap into the lower of the tubes on the right side radiator to be able to return the coolant that then went through the center rad. I think overall that will make a lot more sense once we kind of start doing the thing. Alrighty, well, as you just witnessed, we got the radiators on either side taken down, and they are now loose, as you can see. So we have decent access to all of the hoses, upper and lower. If you've been around the channel for a while, you'll know that coolant is, I hate it. I hate coolant so much. Alrighty, boys and girls. Well, I just got the upper rad hose for the driver's side, left side of the car, installed. Let me show you what we're working with here. Well, it's kind of hard to see, but basically up here is that rad hose, and you can see the teed off part, the new part that comes up, over and down, does another loop, and goes straight up towards the center rad. We have all of that plumbed in now. This was a little bit infuriating to put in. Actually, the hardest part was the routing of this, because this is such a tight area. This kept just wanting to kink on me, this little loop and this loop. There is a article on pelicanparts.com. They do these really great DIY articles that I've used many times over the years for various things. I will link that in the description below, but they do mention that, like, basically this is the orientation of it that it needs to be in. So this part ended up needing to be basically kind of facing up a little bit. I didn't expect that. I thought this would be like level or down, but if you do that, then basically there ends up being too much material here, and this starts kinking up and binding up, so it has to run on this side of this bar. It ended up taking me a few tries, but obviously in the end we did get it, which is good. That's the end goal. I think that was going to be the hardest of the two, knock on wood. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Go ahead and install that, and we'll talk once that's done. Alrighty. Well, about 30 minutes and 17 gallons of spilled coolant later, we have a completed passenger side center radiator hose installation. Basically, this one was about 100 times more simple. The only added challenge was that because it's the lower hose that you're disconnecting from the radiator, obviously you're draining much more coolant because you have to drain the entire radiator. On the driver's side, we only had to drain some of it because it was just the top hose that was being taken off. Obviously, that's not too big of a deal, just a little bit of an added frustration. Inevitably, you're going to get showered in coolant, and that's never any fun. And when it's your least favorite automotive chemical, but anyway, that is all done, at least from a plumbing standpoint. What's next is we need to shift our attention onto the bumper so that we can get air to this thing. Okay, well, we've got the bumper on my workbench back in the workshop here, and it is time to do the removal of this center area. Okay, now it is extremely important to use high precision tools when doing this, such as a Dremel with a very small bit, so you can get in there and get the best possible cut you can possibly get. So, I'm going to go ahead and use a 4-inch cutting wheel. not bad. Now I think after cleaning up with some Dremel bits, I think we'll truly be, you know, looking decent. But look at that freaking open area. Nice. After a decent bit of shop vacuuming to get all of the plastic dust and debris out of the way, and then some cleaning up with my porting bits over there, I was able to come up with this as the final result. And honestly, I mean, I think it looks pretty good. Considering I did it with a 4-inch cutting disc on an angle grinder, I was able to get this line pretty straight to begin with, the top and bottom. And I'm hoping that, considering we've got the black shroud as the background to all of these imperfections, hopefully it's not going to be super crazy obvious that, you know, this line isn't perfect. I mean, I'll probably still clean it up a little bit, but either way, I'm pretty happy with how it came out. And honestly, I don't really think the angle grinder was a bad way to go. If I were to use a very precise tool, like a Dremel, for example, I think you get a lot more like undulation and unevenness along your line. And then I think using a bigger disc allows me to kind of come in here and make slices and keep that line a lot straighter and more consistent. Cool. I'd say this is a good, you know, cutout 1.0. All right, everyone. Well, now that we have our center radiator completely plumbed in and good to go, it's now time to put our shrouds back for the primary radiators, and then we can go ahead and put the bumper back in place. So let's go ahead and get to it so that we can put the old stamp of completion on this project. All right, everybody, check it out. Here it is with the bumper fully installed. Don't mind all of the bugs and the rubber marks on the front bumper. Clearly, I have not cleaned that up since putting this car away for the winter. Anyway, check it out, though. I mean, I'm actually pretty impressed with this. Like, this looks clean. With this black trim piece here, it just kind of flows from shroud to shroud, and you know, it looks like it's meant to be there. It's kind of a if you know, you know type of situation, and I love if you know kind of situations, aka sleepers, you know, which this car will very much be. The narrow body with a fully built, beautiful engine in it. I mean, this thing is it's gonna be quick, and it's gonna look very much like a normal Carrera 4. But while we're talking about the cleanliness, let me put this thing down so we can kind of see it from that vantage point real quick. This is, you know, again, super clean. This is what it looks like. I mean, if you really get low, you can see that front radiator, but it doesn't look like that awkward, like cut out how the 986 Boxster. It looks like it's very much meant to be there. And as I suspected / hoped, you know, with the black shroud being the background to this uneven cut that I made, you can't even tell. Like, in fact, I can't even see it. And maybe in the sunlight, it'll be a little bit more obvious. But point is, if you don't look at it closely, it looks pretty dang good. And I'm pretty freaking psyched about it. Most importantly, though, this thing is going to perform so much better on track from a cooling perspective, and it is just going to be so nice. I can just beat the snot out of it and not have to worry about this thing getting too hot after 15-20 minutes on a super hot July day. Unfortunately, obviously the engine is out. I have no way of vacuum testing it right now to make sure that we are leak free. So we do have to wait for the engine to be back up in the car for that. I'm really crossing my fingers that we don't get this whole thing back together and then find a leak in the front end and need to take the whole front bumper back off just to chase leaks. But all of that being said, super successful day, I would say. We can put the old stamp of completion on the first big item of our checklist for making this thing the beefiest 996 911 of all time. This thing can now sufficiently cool whatever this brand new engine is going to be able to throw at those radiators, and I cannot be more psyched about it. So, with that, thank you all so much for tuning into Funhead TV. I appreciate each and every one of you for watching. Yes, you, I'm looking right at you, and I will see you all, hopefully, in the next video. Oh, hey, Funhead friends and family. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see even more great Funhead TV content, please click the suggested video right here. I'll see you over there.